The wind on Mount San Gorgonio sounded different after sunset. Not louder. Not violent. Just empty. By the time the first search teams reached the trail, the mountain had already gone dark. Flashlights cut through the trees. Radios crackled through the cold air. Somewhere above them, more than 10,000 feet up, a 12-year-old Boy Scout was alone. Or at least, they hoped he still was. The hikers who passed him earlier all remembered the same thing. He looked exhausted. Falling behind. Trying to catch up. And then there was one detail investigators would never stop thinking about. Hours after Jared Negrete vanished, someone found his disposable camera. Inside were pictures of mountains, trees, and hiking trails. Then came the final photo. A close-up image of Jared's own face. Just his eyes. And the bridge of his nose. Taken in darkness. Possibly after he realized he was lost. And then. Nothing. No body. No backpack. No clear explanation. Just a mountain that kept its secret. Before he became one of California's strangest missing person cases, Jared Negrete was just a shy kid trying to fit in. He was 12 years old in the summer of 1991. He lived in El Monte, California with his family and was part of a local Boy Scout troop connected to the Mormon Church. People who knew Jared described him as quiet and gentle. He liked snacks. Liked taking pictures. Liked being included. But there was one thing Jared was not. An experienced hiker. The camping trip to Mount San Gorgonio was supposed to be exciting. For some of the boys, it was another weekend outdoors. For Jared, it was different. This was his first overnight backpacking trip. And Mount San Gorgonio was not beginner terrain. At over 11,000 feet, it's the tallest mountain in Southern California. The trails are steep. The air gets thinner. Temperatures can drop fast after dark. One wrong turn can pull you into ravines, rock chutes, and thick forest where visibility disappears almost instantly. Still, he went. 6 scouts. 1 troop leader. A normal trip that would become a permanent mystery. And somewhere during that hike, something changed. The group began hiking toward the summit on July 19, 1991. At first, nothing seemed unusual. But as the day went on, Jared started struggling. The higher they climbed, the slower he moved. Witnesses later said he looked tired and out of breath. He reportedly lagged behind the rest of the troop multiple times during the ascent. That alone might not sound alarming. Except the group kept going. And eventually, the distance between Jared and everyone else became dangerous. At some point along the Vivian Creek Trail, the troop moved ahead while Jared remained behind. Other hikers noticed him alone. One group reportedly became concerned enough to mention it to the troop leader near the summit. According to reports, they told him a young boy was struggling below and falling behind. The troop leader allegedly responded that he would pick Jared up on the way back down. But by then, hours had already passed. And the mountain was getting darker. Another witness would later become incredibly important to the timeline. A firefighter from Santa Ana. He reportedly encountered Jared around 6 p.m. Alone. Still hiking. Still below the summit. The firefighter warned him not to leave the trail. He specifically told Jared to stop cutting across switchbacks because it was dangerous. That detail matters. Because several witnesses claim Jared had been trying to shortcut parts of the trail earlier in the day. To an exhausted kid, switchbacks probably looked inefficient. Instead of following the long zigzag path, he may have tried moving straight downhill between sections. But on mountains like San Gorgonio, shortcuts can become deadly. Loose rock. Hidden ravines. One slip could send someone far off trail. The firefighter's sighting was the last confirmed time anyone saw Jared Negrete alive. At first, the situation may not have felt catastrophic. The troop leader reportedly believed Jared was simply behind them on the trail. But as darkness settled over the mountain, concern turned into panic. Jared wasn't catching up. He wasn't responding. He was gone. The troop leader eventually searched for him himself before hiking miles in the dark to report the disappearance. And that detail has always divided people. Some saw it as evidence he tried to do the right thing. Others questioned why a 12-year-old inexperienced hiker had been allowed to fall so far behind in the first place. By the morning of July 20th, search and rescue teams flooded the area. Helicopters. Search dogs. Volunteers. Deputies. Experienced trackers. The scale of the operation became enormous almost immediately because authorities understood something critical. If Jared had gotten injured off trail, time mattered. Searchers combed through rock slides and dense vegetation. Helicopters scanned steep canyons from above. Rescue crews shouted Jared's name into empty valleys. Nothing. Then came the footprints. At around the 10,000-foot level, trackers discovered shoe prints believed to match Jared's black high-top tennis shoes. For a moment, it felt like progress. But the tracks led into treacherous terrain. Loose rock. Slippery slopes. Areas where one wrong step could trigger a fall. Veteran tracker Francis Lawson later explained it bluntly. If you stay on the trail, there's no problem. But the minute you get off, you can get swept down in a rockslide. Investigators believe Jared slowly drifted off trail. A shortcut here. A wrong turn there. Until he no longer knew where he was. The worst part? Searchers believed he might still be alive during those early days. There was water nearby. Streams. Creeks. Even fish in some areas. People held on to hope. But hope started collapsing when the camera was found. On July 27, 8 days after Jared disappeared, searchers found a disposable Kodak camera about 45 feet off the Vivian Creek Trail. The location immediately raised questions. Why was it off trail? Investigators developed the film. 12 photos. Most were ordinary. Landscape shots. Mountain scenery. Images taken before the disappearance. Then came the last frame. A flash photograph of Jared himself. Only his eyes and nose visible. Close enough that the camera nearly touched his face. The flash suggested it was dark when the photo was taken. Some family members believe Jared may have accidentally snapped the picture while holding the camera close to himself in the night. Or maybe trying to signal someone. No one knows. But investigators believed one thing strongly. That picture was probably taken after he became separated from the trail. And suddenly, the case changed emotionally. Before the camera, people imagined Jared simply lost. After the camera, people imagined him alone in darkness. Cold. Scared. Trying to survive. The discovery intensified the search. Crews focused heavily on the surrounding terrain. Searchers also recovered beef jerky wrappers and candy wrappers believed to belong to Jared. That detail mattered because his family confirmed he often carried snacks with him. It suggested he had been alive long enough to stop and eat. That possibility made the search even harder emotionally. Because now rescuers had to imagine a 12-year-old wandering through wilderness at night, possibly hearing helicopters overhead while unable to reach them. Then the weather shifted. Rain hit parts of the mountain. Tracks began disappearing. Search dogs lost scent trails. And little by little, the mountain erased him. The scale of the operation became massive. Over the next 2 weeks, hundreds of volunteers joined deputies, firefighters, and military personnel searching the wilderness around San Gorgonio. Still nothing. Despite the footprints. The camera. The snack wrappers. Jared himself remained missing. No clothing. No remains. No clear evidence of a fatal fall. Theories began spreading. The simplest explanation was exposure or injury. Jared may have slipped into terrain hidden from search teams. Dense vegetation and rock formations can conceal remains for years in mountain wilderness. That theory remains the most likely according to authorities. But the case never felt that simple emotionally. After 16 days, officials officially scaled back the search. They believed the odds of survival were almost zero. Jared's family held a memorial service weeks later. More than 500 people attended. But even there, grief mixed with anger. Some family members openly blamed the Boy Scouts and church leadership for allowing Jared to become separated in the first place. That anger never fully disappeared. Because the biggest question remained unanswered. How does a massive search operation find traces of a child? But never the child himself. Officially, this case has never had a named suspect. But that doesn't mean suspicion never entered the story. Because once a child disappears without a trace, people start examining every decision that came before it. Especially decisions made by adults. The troop leader became a focus of criticism almost immediately. Not because investigators accused him of harming Jared. But because people questioned the judgment involved. Witnesses reportedly warned him Jared was alone and struggling. Yet the group continued upward. Some critics argued the situation should have triggered an immediate regrouping. Others defended the leader, saying hiking culture at the time placed more responsibility on individual scouts to keep pace. Still, many couldn't get past the core issue. A 12-year-old inexperienced hiker had ended up alone on a mountain at dusk. That fact never stopped sounding wrong. That's what makes Jared Negrete's disappearance so unsettling.